Oh, okay. So my name is Miriam Subirana. I met David Cooper-Ryder, who is the starter of Appreciative Inquiry in India in a meditation retreat. And I found that a very interesting way. I don't know how many people have met David Cooper-Ryder in this way. And so Appreciative Inquiry is a way of seeing that focuses on what gives life, and also meditation focuses on what gives life, at least the meditation I practice. And so once I knew about Appreciative Inquiry and about a program called Images and Voices of Hope that was gathering together artists, designers, journalists, how can we give images and words that give hope instead of the opposite, which is very necessary, this enhancing hope nowadays. So I started, I got full training on Appreciative Inquiry, and then I started applying it in my own life and in different organizations that I have been working with for now more than 20 years. So actually I knew about Appreciative Inquiry in almost in its beginnings in the 80s. And and so I started giving training, especially in Spanish-speaking world, but also I have been giving training on Appreciative Inquiry all over Europe, and also applying it in different companies and organizations. So before we start into the subject, I'm gonna pass the mic to Cees so that you can introduce yourself. And you need to put your microphone on.
Basic. Thank you, Miriam, and welcome to all partners and interested people from all over. And I think what connects you all is the coaching profession. And I think what we are going to do today is to extend that the view of coaching a little bit more, I guess. My name is Cees Hoogendijk. I was born in the Netherlands and now living in Spain. 35 years of being in organizations, management, consulting, change. And my mission has become, through the years, I'm self-employed now for 15 years, my mission has become humanization of organization. That is the framework from which I work and where I put in all what I have in me. So for now, maybe that is enough. To put a sort of a cliffhanger. We work from the perspective of thinking partner with people in organizations, and it's the same like, how can you explain, how would you explain a person working in an organization about his or her organization around him? It's like trying to explain a fish what water is. And that is maybe what we have to do as being a thinking partner. But plenty of time to go into that.
Thanks, Cees. So the idea of this webinar is to finish in 1 hour, actually a little bit less than 1 hour now. And I'm gonna introduce very briefly about Appreciative Inquiry and how we apply it in the coaching process. Appreciative Inquiry was born mainly for organizational change. And so it's a large scale intervention that allows all the system in the organization to participate in the process of change. The key elements of Appreciative Inquiry is the power of image, how images change us and shape us. So if we change the structure of an organization because it's not working well, but the people's images are of loss of hope, of non-trusting, of thinking, no, this is not going to work, they don't see it, then it's very difficult that just by changing the structure, the change will really happen. So when we have images that are compelling images, that are positive images, that are our aspirations, then that leads to a more collective change, especially if the images are shared, because sometimes there is a visionary leader that sees clearly what change they want, but they don't know how to transmit that image or how to make people own that image or make it theirs. And so one aspect of appreciative inquiry is the power of image. The other is the power of words, how words create our world. And so what is the narrative that we use, how we narrate what's happening in our organization shapes what happens in the organization. So how words create our world, and how changing the way we talk about something, we can actually change that, whatever it is. So that's a second aspect of appreciative inquiry. The third aspect of appreciative inquiry, which maybe you have heard about, is the power of questions. That's something important for the process of coaching. Questions create a ripple, create a change. And the thing is that the power of questions in appreciative inquiry are questions that are based on searching what gives life to people. So what is the positive core? And then we go to the fourth aspect of appreciative inquiry, how if we are centered in our positive core, which is what gives life to us, then we move from a space of strength. And then we go to the fifth aspect of appreciative inquiry, that is changing on the basis of strengths instead of changing on the basis of weaknesses. And when we apply all of that in the process of one-to-one, which is the process of coaching a person, we include all these aspects, and we also include another aspect, which I said before, which is the whole system approach. Listen to all the voices, and then the change will be faster, instead of just listening to to the few people who have a management position, and then not listening to the rest of the workers. So one thing that the appreciative inquiry does is that it allows all the wisdom of the organization to emerge by a very participative process. And so when we apply that in coaching, what happens then? One is that we connect the person with what moves them, what is their positive core, instead of inquiring in what goes wrong, in what doesn't work. We inquire in what works, when it worked, what happened, where are the strengths, what gives life to the person. And when the person is connected with what gives life to them, they have a wider possibility of having of moving from a strengths-based perspective instead of moving from a weakness perspective. So let's say I heard recently a description of appreciative inquiry, which I liked, was that saying of the glass half full, or those that are optimistic, they see the glass half full. Those that are pessimistic, they see the glass half empty. But those that are in appreciative inquiry, they say, wow, the glass is half full. What did we do to make it half full? And how could we use those strengths to fill it fully? So this is the inquiry of appreciative, that goes into the strengths and then into creating a compelling image that will help the person move from what doesn't work to what works. So when we do appreciative inquiry coaching, we use the model of the 5Ds, which is define what does the person really want to work with, and do they see themselves being that? Then we go into discovery. Where are the strengths? What are the high point experiences, the highlights in their life in which they were connected to a similar experience and they overcome it, and what gave them strength? And then we go to the dream phase, which is creating the compelling image that will move me to go forward. So in some coaching schools, they talk about the desired future. In appreciative inquiry coaching, we create a visualization in which the person sees themselves in the future they want to live. And then from there, they describe what is the path they have, what is the path they have followed to reach that aspirational future. And then we go to design, which design provocative proposals that will be a bridge from where we are now to the dream where we want to be. And then we do destiny, which is creating commitments based on being loyal to the values of the person, connecting with their best experiences and their strengths. So this is very briefly sharing about how appreciative inquiry is involved in coaching. We give a training on appreciative inquiry coaching, which is a 24-hour training, and we give it online also. And we will give you the website or my mail so that, whoever is interested, we can share more about applying appreciative inquiry in coaching. But we wanted to share how from appreciative inquiry coaching, we move to thinking partner, because appreciative inquiry is an organizational change methodology, philosophy, and becoming a thinking partner also has to do with accompanying those that are leaders of organizations. And I would like to know, Cees, if you want to add something about what I said so far of appreciative inquiry and take it on from here to thinking partner.
Yes, of course. I was just thinking that just perceiving these messages so far, the ideas, of appreciative inquiry as a possibility-oriented approach, and not necessarily a problem-solving approach. That is already something to take in when we sometimes see ourselves in the role of helping another to solve problems, as sometimes coaching is. And then we also say, like, our client is both the owner of the problem and the owner of the solution, and we guide and facilitate that process. So this is already a lot to take in when you step into the realm of appreciative inquiry, which starts at the point of, okay, this is what it is to appreciate, and what shall we do next to go further? So it's a growth-oriented thing. Now, if you take this into an organizational setting, then first of all, imagine that the client is not just a client. The client is an actor in an organization with the need to not only improve him or herself, but to make to cause improvements in the organizational context which he or she feels responsible for. That is for us the setting of being a thinking partner. And when you face yourself as a thinking partner towards that other, And this partnership is sort of mutual, because if you are a thinking partner, then the other is also your thinking partner. So what are we going to do here? And I apologize already for bringing you into a very high level of complexity, for the only reason that I think our job, and that is, and in a few moments, I'm going to share you a very complex one slide to take you through a little aspects. But our job is to not only to help the other solve his problem, but to bring some knowledge and experience about organizational context. Is to find out how the other is looking and interpreting his own, when I say his, then I also mean hers, own organization, to find out where his level of thinking towards organization is, and to find out whether he can expand this thinking to look at the organizational context with fresh eyes. And so it may not have been there yet, that knowledge or experience. And so your role as a thinking partner can also include, or may include, to add new knowledge and experience to the conversation. So just imagine that you are the thinking partner and you are quite goal-oriented. Go for it person. I would call this an orange, and I will explain this you are an orange person. Sometimes these are great coaches. Then your client, the other, let's say a green person, a we-oriented person, people-oriented. Let's do it all together. It's not only about the achievement of the organization, it's also about the achievement of those people, their lives, their children. It's a whole system. That's your client. And somehow the organization that client is working is a blue organization, completely bureaucratic, systemized, dominated by rules and regulations. It's an oasis for some people to live there, but for some others, and there's something like your client which doesn't fit, but you may not see it because rules are very collective. They include everyone, and they can feel very comfortable. So, and now are you, the orange person with this going, how are you going to help this green client of you to find out whether he can add something to a blue organization? That is maybe the simplest example. How can you do this? So you have to understand your own orange, you have to understand the green of the other and the blue of the organization. That is something where I want to try you into, and I'm going to show you a slide. And I think, just as a disclaimer for this 10 minutes to come, the goal of this 10 minutes is just to share a little bit of a glimpse. The question is, what does it take to be a thinking partner? So that at least at the end of this session, you could say, okay, this is quite complex. I need to add something to the knowledge of the other, and maybe I can retrieve that knowledge by experience, by learning. Does it make me the one who is already on the highest level of perceiving? No, so I refer to the Dalai Lama, who always say, if you want to teach something, you should start teaching when you already when you are at half the knowledge. So I think I'm having half the knowledge, and that is why I take the courage to start teaching this, but the other half is still not there. So please fill me in. You may be ending up being my thinking partner as well. Having said this, I'm going to share a screen, and that would be this one. Where's my share button? Here we are, an application. Voila. So I'm going to take you through this. Left upper. What does it take to be a thinking partner is our goal for this, my goal for this, ambitious goal for this 10 minutes. And we always use this, Miriam showed it already, this idea of you complement really. So there is something in your mind that you bring that is not yet in the other's mind. And the other, of course, has knowledge you may not have. And together you have to find out how to increase your joint knowledge. And so the role is of a thinking partner in our vision in the organizational context is to help the other to change, adjust, or improve his or her thinking in such a way that he or she is able to handle a certain problem. So we are actually here to change somebody's thinking. And change somebody's thinking is most of the time is to transcend someone's thinking to another level, which that person was not aware yet of, and include all previous level with it. So don't forget all the knowledge and experience we are building upon. So then there's me, the thinking partner, and the other, and there's a case. There's something needs to be done. First, I would say to give you just this overview of all, what you call it, some bullets, sound bites I'm giving you. I would say, please forget everything I'm going to say. And if I missed something, or if I triggered something, then this is my mail address to give me some questions. That first of all, there is, of course, the relating to that other person with your inquiry repertoire, with your good questions, with your listening, with your appreciation of who that person is. And this is coincidence that it's a green, but to appreciate that person in his own levels of thinking, but then be aware of the fact that talking to this person, you actually speak with someone who brings a whole background of organizational interpretation with him. That person is working there, you not. So you try to look through the eyes and through the thinking of the other, and you get information that is based on the existing level of thinking of that person. The person doesn't see what he doesn't see. And now, can you be able to bring that person to a level that he sees more, so you see more? And that is, of course, by inquiry. If these qualities already would have been enough, and concentrate on the relation, because this person is going to be, you get a little bit angry if someone tells you, this is what you don't see. Hey, come on, I'm working here 10 years already, and you're telling me that I don't see this. No, maybe because you're not able to see it yet. So we go into, if we talk about, let's say, training or helping a thinking partner to develop his repertoire of being a thinking partner, we go into all kinds of skills in the relational, but also into knowledge about the organizational context. And then we go to the ultimate knowledge, like the value systems area. If you heard about Claire Graves or spiral dynamics, a set of, and I use these colors green and blue and orange from that value system, which is an individual approach to behavior driven by memes instead of genes. All too complex yet, but these value systems of individual people do also translate to certain types of organizations. You may speak in a metaphorical way of orange organizations, very goal-oriented, Nike, or very blue organizations like the police or the tax ministry, or very networking related organizations with very democratic cultures like the green and yellow. So there's a body of understanding about the maturity or the level of organization in terms of value systems. That's one body of knowledge. And there's another body of knowledge we will go in, and it's about complexity. If you may have heard about a consultant called Snowden, Dave Snowden, and his Cynefin model, and Cynefin is a strange Celtic word, but it says in essence that you can look at organization, which is at least a complicated environment, but it's already complex in our times of constant competitors, constant changing of the environment. If you look through the eyes of simple, which is part of this Cynefin model, to a complicated problem, then you think there's a standard solution, but you should have find out the possible solutions to solve it. And if you find yourself in complexity, but you think it's complicated, then you think there is at least a remedy. But there's not, because the strategy in complexity is that you have to make an educated guess and try and learn from it to when you want to change or improve the situation. And then we're not even talking about the chaotic. What this means is what we see is that quite often organizational actors, managers, consultants, professionals in organizations who are sort of responsible for bringing that organization further, sort of have a misfit between their seeing and observing the situation and trying to solve it. And the Cynefin model, which includes levels of complexity, gives really some extra understanding of how you can overcome that misfit and really start into growing organization again. Another dimension is just what are organizations, well, how do they look like? You could say, hey, Cees, we're looking at the slide here. We're not looking at real organization. But I would say, how does real organization look like? Is it not always an image you build up when you're walking in a corridor or sitting in an office restaurant or talking to a certain person? It's always an image you build up. So there's a guy called Gareth Morgan who says there are at least 8 different images of looking at organizations. And are you aware that you might be the one that sees an organization like a machine, and the people are to be placed like parts of the machine, that others see it as a political system where you can argue and debate, and others see it like more like a fluent, like a river, or like a prison, or so are you aware that there are at least 8 views, and these are dominant views? And if you are in one of those views, you might see your organization like this, and then it never becomes something else. And then you know this context of everybody wants his organization to be sustainable, or lean, or agile, or teal, one of the most modern ones, reinventing Frédéric Laloux. The thinking partner, I think, should be able to know about these organizational ambitions, to smile about it, that they are all striving for some excellence or some ultimate holy grail, but that there is sense in it to strive for a better organization than you are at the moment. But then all these ways of looking at organization have to become aware through you in the mind of the person you are mentoring or you are a thinking partner of. And then there's maybe the most complex. How is the level of thinking, the level of comprehension of your client? And I may be smart, and maybe that other person is much smarter than me. I'm talking to Einstein. How is the communication between Cees and Einstein, or the other way around? How does it work? How can I find out where that person is in terms of common understanding, reasoning, or maybe even on the level of practical wisdom, organizational virtuousness? So we go into the realm of old Chinese wisdom, the curiosity of and the geniality of Leonardo da Vinci, just to find out how it is, what kind of levels we can have to become more brilliant than we already are. And this is necessary between the 2 of us to find out how far you can go. And then, having gone through all this, and I'm talking about at the moment, not the process of thinking partner, but I'm talking about the process of training a thinking partner. But you see, this is a practice of your practice what you preach thing, of course. We have to find out how far you can go, and then you can make a decision on how the thinking partner process can evolve into something that fits the organization, that fits your client. And always the question that is remaining, am I the right thinking partner for this person, for this situation? So I think I promised about 10, 12 minutes, and I'm going to unshare this. And I hope that at least I reach some sort of point that you could say, okay, there is something like coaching there's something I didn't mention. Edgar Schein, by the way, the I think it's still alive, the one who wrote already for 40, 50 years about process consulting, the helping relationship, the leveling between you and your client, which is extremely important, and even become sort of getting a professional friendship, because in this thinking partner relationship, you have to be able to say everything which is be liked or unliked. And having said this, I hope I gave you a first impression of the area you step into when we're talking thinking partner. And what I wanted to do already when I came in, because I saw at least one familiar person, and that is John Lodder, and he's busy with his daughter at the moment. And I want to say hello to John Lodder. That is what it is.
Hi Kees.
So,
Leuk
hi.
om jullie alle twee weer eens te zien na lange tijd.
And now he's speaking Dutch to you, so you
Okay.
Sorry, yeah.
So,
Very nice to see both of you.
Yes, thank you, John. I'm gonna amplify a little bit what Cees was sharing, but just Cees, if you can write properly the name of the person, you see the chat. There are some questions for you about the author of the 8 visions of the organization.
Okay.
You can write it in the chat. So as you saw in this image that Cees was sharing, in one side is all the skills of the thinking partner, and one is the different levels of inquiry. And one, of course, is appreciative inquiry. The other is relational inquiry, which has to do with including all the relations that the client has to involve, or maybe they need to have a necessary conversation, a difficult conversation. Who are the people they are not seeing? Who are the people that they think they should involve in the next episode in their life? So it's all about relational inquiry. And then there is the humble inquiry, and there is the diagnosis inquiry. So there are different levels of inquiry that Edgar Schein, Cees is putting all the authors in the chat. I did put David Cooper-Ryder before, but maybe you can put it again so that they are all in one list. So the different levels of inquiry that we can use when we are thinking partners, and what are the right questions for the right moment, and how sometimes we need to create or to ask a provocative question so that the person opens the eyes and sees. And it's not that we tell them what they have to see, but through the right question, which is a provocative question that confronts the person with themselves. What do I mean with that? And many times we have this tendency to, in Spanish, it says like throw the balls out of your plate, like saying the fault is in the others are at fault, not me. When the others change, then the organization will be much better. But if they don't change, there's nothing we can do. So sometimes the leader has a blind spot or more than a blind spot. And so these different levels of inquiry help us accompany the client to be able to see in a wider way, and to see themselves from an appreciative way, and see others also from an appreciative way. And then there are, in the relational inquiry, we also touch upon in our training on becoming a thinking partner, the 5 relational acts. There is a triangle, which is like the 3 relational acts that are that happen constantly, which is when we ask for something, when we offer something, and when we come to an agreement. And many times the asking, it's like imposing, or sometimes some people have a hard time asking, and so they easily offer, but they don't ask so clearly. And how many times one says, oh, I already told you this. I thought we had agreed, but actually the agreement wasn't so clear. And there are two other relational acts, which is the act of listening and the act of acknowledging, recognizing the other, seeing the other. And so when these 5 relational acts are in the proper balance, then communication flows better. And many times the leader has a problem of communication because the way they ask, it creates fear in others. They impose, if you don't do this, you should do this, and then it's like imposing and not seeing the other, not listening to the other. And sometimes the way of offering is very vague. And then it's this leads to a lot of misunderstandings. So that's part of our training, how to do a relational inquiry in which the 5 relational acts are properly activated. And one of them is listening, and there are different levels of listening and different ways that our listening affects the other. And so in the we do 2 trainings, one on appreciative inquiry coaching, which also gives ICF credits, and we also give the thinking partner training. And so if any of you are interested, you can, I think all of you received a mail from us, or more than a mail, because ICF today told us, oh, you need to send another mail as a reminder. Okay. So we are at your at your service, and we would like to open this last part to questions, which you can either put your microphone on or questions in the chat. One 2 things that, yes, now I see Cees is putting in the chat is that we during the thinking partner training, we give a free test, which you can already do it, which is clmirror.org, which is connective leadership mirror. How connective is the leader? And that is a good tool when you are accompanying leaders, that it can help you get to know better your client, and also get to know better yourself. And the management challenge, we play it during the thinking partner training, but you can have a look at it. And it's to understand the difficult process of decision making that the leader has to take, and how to learn to take decisions on the basis of focusing on the facilitators, the ones that will keep the process moving. And there's also a book, the process book. So anyway, we are at your service, and please, if you have any question or anything that you would like us to expand a bit more, because we went quite fast sharing what appreciative inquiry, coaching, and thinking partner, and maybe there's an aspect that you would like that we focus more on it, or that we enlarge that.